Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for June the 8th, 2020. Today I thought we'd discuss what happened in the United Kingdom over the weekend concerning Black Lives Matter, because there were a number of protests that took place in many towns and cities, not one of which involved anyone obeying the government guidelines of not doing it because seriously you're risking the R rate going over 1, and of course not practicing social distancing, but at least many of you turned up wearing face masks. It's a start, I guess. The protests were because of what happened to George Floyd. Although I guess a more accurate way of summarising it would be, George Floyd is the straw that breaks the camel's back on perceived racial injustices within the world. If we're going to go down that path, everyone's a victim. There are a number of things that took place that I find interesting, and I want to talk about it because honestly, the way it happened and how people behaved is a damning statement. We can go to Twitter if you like. But since all it is people being pedantic shits and saying really obnoxious, rude things and not being truly understanding in anything they discuss, we'll do one. Nick Collins tweeted out this. For those who say the UK doesn't have a racism problem, which it doesn't, allow me to remind you, the Windrush scandal. A clerical error. Yep, that's racism. Nigel Farage, because wanting Brexit makes you racist. Britain first, yeah, okay, you got a point with that one. Although they are a very small group, so small, they're almost as big as the Westboro Baptist Church. Katie Hopkins. No, she's not. Theresa May's Go Home bus. Bad optics, but aimed at illegal immigrants, which it said on the side of the buses. Tommy Robinson, who is very much anti-extremist Islam. Grenfell. Oh yeah, because it is the country's fault that another company put the wrong cladding on a building to cut corners and save money. Boris Johnson. That was a tough one. That's a tough one. But the overarching point to all of these is that you've pointed out a few that are marginally correct, but are so small in number and only focus on white people that you're not pointing out actual racist problems, you're pointing out individuals who have committed acts that have been deemed racist. That is not a country that has racism as a problem. Nick, you're not very smart, I'm just saying. The BBC did report on one or two bits that I found to be quite amusing. For example, the, air quotes, largely peaceful protesting, which you're correct about. It was, for the most part, largely peaceful. But the parts you focused on as not peaceful were horrific, like the policewoman who was taken off her horse. A horse startled because people threw a bike at it. Absolutely sickening behaviour from people. The police are there to protect you and everyone else, because there is a risk that you are going to commit a violent act. Don't compare the United Kingdom's police with other nations, because you know police brutality is not a thing here. There have been a few incidents of it, but they are so minimal. Go back to Westboro Baptist Church, that's how many. It's so small and pathetic. Our police are also, unlike most other countries, some of the most regulated police and held to account than anywhere else. Our police are what I'd like to call cucked out. They don't have power. Our police were busy kneeling for you, in fact, which I found to be quite amusing. Celebrities like Anthony Joshua, who, by the way, was not wearing a face mask, but thought he'd pose in Watford because I've got to look good for my homies, yo, called racism a pandemic, which, if using a global measure, is semi-accurate if you take into account all other countries' various levels of discrimination to anyone of any other race. But that's not what you meant, is it? You believe, like a lot of people, that the majority of those who are victims of racism are just black people. That's not how this works. Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, the man who's supposed to protect everyone in that city, give them the very best opportunities and, of course, look out for them, supported the protesting, which I find to be rather interesting during election season, especially when the chief of police, Cressida, dubbed the protests unlawful, even though she herself, much like Sadiq Khan, has done nothing to stop it. At this point, you two should resign. You have failed your employees, i.e. the police, and Khan, you have failed this city. I feel like the Green Arrow saying that. In Bristol, there is a statue of Edward Colston. There are also buildings, I believe, named in his honour, who was a merchant who had been involved in the slave trade. Made a lot of money on it too. The statue was pulled down by Black Lives Matter protesters, with his legs being bound, because statues are known for moving, and he was yeeted into the river. Now, okay, Bristol had intended to put a plaque where his statue was explaining his past, but it had never happened. So naturally, when you don't get your own way, what you should do is, do it yourselves. Kind of reminds me of when Theresa May didn't get her own way when it came to airstriking the Syrian weapons dumps. The UN vetoed it, I believe, so she decided to strike them anyway. Even Keir Starmer has said that while that statue should not have been there anyway, you were wrong to tear it down. It should have been torn down by the council. Because you've done that, people are now on the fence when it comes to whether or not it should have been removed in the first place. More will want that statue put back, which is more than likely what will happen once they dredge it out of the river, if it hasn't been dragged further along to the point where they don't know where it is anymore. Not the smartest move, is it? You want to make a point against racism? Go ahead and make a point. Be peaceful. Don't tear down public property and then say, but they did this. Yes, they did. But it is down to the councils to tear them down. If they don't, you keep on complaining until they do. You do not take it upon yourself to destroy property. We in the United Kingdom don't tolerate that. I don't think that statue should have stood, but I also don't think you should have torn it down. I support Keir Starmer on that one. My biggest worry with this is that the R rate will go up. The government is trying to find a way to get the R rate down enough to get life back to, air quotes, normal. While you are right to protest about injustices in this country, you should have followed the government's guidance, or at the least practiced social distancing when doing it. You would have covered more ground anyway, and, let's face it, when there is no violence in a protest, when it is peaceful but loud, more can be accomplished than by simply destroying things, by attacking our police, the same people who cucked out to you anyway. With what has happened over the weekend, I do want to know what you think. In the UK, for the most part, it was quiet, but there were areas of it that were wrong. Whether you support Black Lives Matter or not, I'm intrigued to know what you think. I would very much like for racism to be a thing of the past, so when I destroy your entire species, it's not a thing. And I don't believe, unlike many, that all cops are bastards. So please do let me know in the comments down below.